replenishment of coal was slow going for New Uxbridge. Although their leader hoped that enough improvements could be made before the storm hits. Well, there was still time to do so. Additional research facilities were built, just as the generator was at its strongest when it came to heat. As for what research next, well, better insulated houses, because, like us, their city needed all the help it could get when it came to basic survival. They certainly had enough coal to spare. In fact, that was one thing that they wouldn't run out of anytime soon, even after the storm would pass. Based on what I have written down here, in fact, it was more than enough to keep New Manchester from freezing over. Oh yes, and the factory was building another automaton. What for? Well, there would be a reason for that. Although with their current coal supply, on this day, you could only have 2 little automatons. Well, there were certainly 2 little human workers, or engineers. The only worker that was in that city at that time was from New Manchester. Who was unlikely to return there, at least until the storm had passed. With the additional help of the fourth workshop. The research into better housing was completed a little faster. As for what was worked on next, well, better heaters was something that would prove useful, especially to the seedling arcs. The main reason why this city was built. Resources within New Uxbridge than it knew what to do with. One of many reasons why the leader of that city didn't have a problem with wanting to help New Manchester, as New Manchester without help would be doomed. Although more storage was welcome. And the cold was growing. Well, it would be within a couple of days. Thankfully, it wouldn't get too cold for the people of that city anytime soon. At least not until the storm hits, if their experiences were anything like ours. Even with our city being as heated as it could be, we still barely got out of it. It was worrying. I need not say much else about that. Well, not much else that we don't already know. Oh yes, as for the additional steam hub, considering that the amount of coal coming in was still more than the amount of coal coming out, that would not be a problem. The charcoal kilns were also making sure that there was not too much wood being stored. As for the food supply, well, considering that there was less than 50 humans living there, it was likely that they had over a month of food. Well, they had around certainly a tenth of the population of Winterhome, more or less. Well, it's certainly a fraction of both our city and Winterhome. The night was largely uneventful. Resource depots were being constructed. People either eating or sleeping, and automatons were doing their work. As for any other plans that the leader of this city might have, well, I'll speak of them when they appear. It was becoming hotter in the seedling Ux city, New Uxbridge. Although the same would not be said about outside it, or indeed outside of the heat zones. That's both the generator and the steam hubs produced. the lead of New Uxbridge. Was clearly no villain, based on his actions. If he was, he would have left New Manchester to die. Well, either a villain or someone who is, well, one way of putting it is weak. Someone who blindly followed the whims of society. Makes me sick, doesn't it? Thankfully, he wasn't like that. With the heaters as good as they could be, there's the question of what to work on next. And what he decided to work on was better coal mines. Well, there was some steam cores spare, so I expect he thought, why not? It'd mean that they could keep things running a little better. Although the margin of error was not that high. And they still needed a surplus of coal to make it through the storm. And according to this, before the storm hit, and they had they barely had time to fully improve the overdrive. Both the heat it generated and, well, the time they would have with it. Which was something that would be useful to them. When the storm eventually hits them. Although that was nearer the time. We haven't got that far yet. At this point, the research into the best coal mine that could be developed was under development. And yes, he kept checking the outside. And more locations of interest were being caused in the storm. getting close. And it tortured those within that city, knowing that it would reach them much sooner than we found out. Only one steam core each was needed for the improvement of the coal mines. Largely because there were already a couple of steam cores there already. And I know I was a bit redundant. Sorry about that. As for what... Can't get the right words out, can I? The next research projects. Let's see, what was it? Oh yes. Better insulation for healthcare. Well, can't have those recovering from illness. Be freezing cold, could we? Even in the less advanced medical post. More of those would need to be constructed. Perhaps replacing the hothouses, the industrial hothouses. Nearer the time, of course. Well, that's certainly what he did, according to what I've got written down here. As he understood just as much as I did. Well, those who obeyed him understood about as much as those that were under me. That the hothouses would not be all that useful when the storm hits. Which meant that it would be more useful to have medical facilities. Yes. At this point, they couldn't really miss it. Also, advanced coal mines were constructed. Well, upgraded from the steam coal mines, which meant more coal was coming in. And that is something that would be helpful for those who needed more space. Well, for example, for charcoal kilns. Well, that wood would need to be used. Well, it needed to be used some way, as it was being gathered quicker than it was needed. must have been faults with that steam hub, as not all of the snow within the heat zone it produced had melted. Even though it should have melted, as the generator was on the maximum heat setting.
Wrap up well, the frost is here.
Which was needed more than ever with the growing cold. The days kept counting down, and the storm was getting ever closer. But New Uxbridge would be ready for it when the time came. Even with the primary mission that the people of that city had before them, their expectations were low. Never mind how they viewed their chances of success with helping New Manchester. But that didn't stop this leader from making that decision. A decision which they eventually agreed was the wise one. As it didn't endanger their mission as much as they thought it would. They had much hope for what came after this day. And once they had all that they needed, they focused more on installation and the overdrive as far as research was concerned. That was all that was needed for what was coming. They were chosen. Stewards of the future. But winter forced them to choose. They found another city, helpless in the cold. They decided to help. Lives were more important. They saved all the arks. But more importantly, they saved New Manchester. They took their chances and saved their humanity. Lest that be their legacy. And so it was revealed. More outposts of humanity were found in the wastes. New Uxbridge and New Manchester. Humanity was now in 4 figures in population. Wait, what's this? Thank you for informing me. I shall get on with this.